Welcome to Money Matters. I'm DCrowell from Mortgage Network, and I'll be hosting the first half of the show. And in the second half of the show, Emily Johnson from Polaris Capital will do the second half of the show. So today, let's see, it's Friday the 3rd of November. That's when we're taping this particular show. And this morning, the big news is twofold in the national news. The first is we have a jobs report showing an increase of jobs in the country of 261,000. And the other big topic, by far the biggest topic, is the announced yesterday tax reform package that the Republicans have put forward in Washington. So let's do jobs report first. We've had continuous job growth since the dark days of the recession in early 2009, quarter over quarter over quarter over quarter. There's been an occasional decline or an occasional dip, but it's been for one quarter. The trend line has been increased employment in every month, every single month since the recession. So this has been one of the largest, longest growth periods in the U.S. economy, certainly the post-World War II economy. So for the last 50, 60, 70 years, this is the longest sustained growth period. 261,000 jobs sounds pretty cool, but actually economists were expecting about 310,000 jobs. And so there's slight disappointment in the numbers, and the equities markets, the Dow and S&P and so forth, the equities markets stayed flat on the news, which is very interesting. It's showing more and more the indications that even though we've had a growing economy for a very, very long time, and low interest rates and low inflation rates, we've also had fairly low growth for an extended period of time, and the markets are all overbought. The stock market has been as heavily bought as one could arguably expect, and the bond market is heavily bought as well. And every market is sort of topped out after this long, slow period of growth. The other interesting thing about the jobs report this morning is that the kind of dark side of it, the sort of the nasty little piece of news inside the jobs report is that wages have yet again not increased. So there's zero wage increase shown in the jobs report. So even though healthcare costs continue at a high clip, continue to increase at a high clip, and even though medical care, I just said that medical care increases at a high clip and education increases at a high clip, wages continue to not do so. So the sort of problem piece in the U.S. economy is, as we've stated before on the show, is that a very big percentage of the wage earners of the workforce have essentially seen zero income growth for the last 10 or 15 years after adjustment for inflation. Now, it doesn't sound like an easy segue, but the other major topic, which is tax reform, is actually a reasonably interconnected topic with the jobs report. tax reform, the bill that's been put forward, or the package that's been put forward, would represent the largest change in the tax system in a very long time, in 30 or 40 years. And it's not a tax reform package, it's a tax break. There's not a great deal of complexity to it. I mean, there is complexity in that it's many pages long and it's got many pieces. But there's no great complexity to it when you look at it in dollar terms. If I had a table in front of me and I had a stack of gold coins for each of the components. So I have a stack of gold coins for this, a stack of gold coins for this, and a stack of gold coins for this. The big stack over here, sort of from the table all the way up as high as I could stack them, would be a tax break for corporations. Corporate tax rate is going from 35% to 20%. That's proposed. So think of the tax package, the tax reform package, not as a package so much as a tax break, because that's really what it is. And think of the big pile of coins, which is the corporate tax break, corporate rates moving from 35% down to 20%, which represents a couple of $1 trillion of tax savings for corporations over the next 10 years. Then there'll be a small pile for the middle class, and that small pile will be basically an adjustment up or down that will essentially leave the middle class evens. There'll be small adjustments to the and you'll hear a lot of news and squawking and squealing about the minor adjustments. For example, the interest rate deduction for home mortgages is going to be capped at $10,000 a year. So that's a clawback which will impact upper middle class families, middle class and upper middle class families who have more than $10,000 worth of mortgage interest. So that's a takeaway. There's many other small details that are small pluses, small minuses for the middle class. But if you look at all of those other piles, they're small piles of pluses, small piles of minuses, and then there's this giant great heap, which is the corporate tax break. The impact of the corporate tax break is interesting. Republicans for many years now have been absolutely adamant about restraining deficit spending. The Tea Party and the fiscal conservatives in the House and the Senate were all hawks, very strong about keeping the deficit neutral and then beginning to reduce the deficit. This tax break will actually increase the deficit by some $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion over the next 10 years. How can you be on one day cutting the child medical subsidy program because it's too expensive, and on the next day giving $1.5 trillion to the corporations? That's the debate that we'll be seeing in the Republican House and the Republican Senate. Needless to say, Democrats are 100% against it. That's the debate that you'll be watching, hopefully with interest, over the next weeks. The administration hopes to get the tax plan or the tax break or the tax reform, whatever you'd like to call it, is hoping to get it done by year end. The way that it's being sold, and this is the last point of my chat today, is that such a big break to the corporations will trickle down and be given out to workers as higher wages. We'll see. Okay, everybody, watch with interest, and we'll be back next week with Money Matters. This is DCrowell signing off. Thank you.